I have played a lot of video games in my lifetime, and each of them left me with a very different experience. An experience where no matter how big or fast your enemy is, all it takes is a giant weapon and a dream to achieve victory. One where failure is, and always will be, an opportunity to adapt, no matter how many times you're defeated. An experience where you choose your own path, and you, just as your allies, change along with it. This is an experience that I share with 55 million people. For my entire life, I've always been pretty big on video games as a source of entertainment, and right up there with fighting games would be another one of my favorite genres, RPGs. Especially ones where I can create my own character. Each of the games I'm going to talk about today hold a very special place in my heart, and each one of them for varying reasons. They have all managed to shift my perspective on the modern and questionable publishing strategies companies often use these days, and honestly, they have shifted my perspective on gaming as a whole. If you've played these titles, allow me to share my relationship with these games. If you haven't, maybe my perspective may give you a nudge towards trying them one day. At this point in time, I have over 1,200 hours played on all of these games, and Monster Hunter makes up around 700 of them. Monster Hunter was probably my most played game of the year 2018, releasing in January of that same year. There were a couple of other drop titles I played that year like Smash Ultimate, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and Destiny's Forsaken expansion, but those all dropped later in the year, so in the meantime, my friends and I suited up to go hunting. This was pretty much my first exposure to Monster Hunter. Two of my friends at the time were playing it, and knowing it could host up to 4 players at a time, they urged me to join in. Now, you may be wondering, what did I think when I first played the game? To be honest, I hated it. I hated it because it was different. I had never played a game like this before. I had experience with shooters and fighters, and a very minimal amount of Dark Souls experience, but in all of those games, I've never fought a boss without a health bar before, so it definitely caught me off guard. On top of that, I did have some trouble finding the monsters at first, but I got the hang of that eventually. And of course, there were the issues with the co-op experience as well. So what changed my mind? For starters, the biomes in this game are beautiful. Each area is vastly different from the last, and the graphics are just amazing. To this day, Monster Hunter World also has the best character creator I've ever seen, at least out of the games I've played. With that, boss designs are full of character and charm. You got the cool ones, the weird ones, and you got the ones that will absolutely wreck your day. Whatever you're looking for, they got it, but what really had me stick around was the combat. If you were not aware, Monster Hunter is classified as an RPG, but that doesn't change the fact that each of its 14 weapon types feel extremely distinct, enough to the point that each one has its own moveset, almost like a character in a fighting game. And those of you who know me well enough can probably take a wild guess at what weapon I chose. I cannot express enough how smooth and fun the Monster Hunter combat is. It is so good to the point that I find myself missing its gameplay when I play other less engaging RPGs. I remember using the bow in both Destiny 2 and Elden Ring and simply thinking to myself, Monster Hunter just feels better. They are very different types of games, but if it feels good, it feels good. Which honestly leaves me extremely excited for the upcoming release of Monster Hunter Wilds. But I guess we will have to wait and see how that turns out. Oh, and PS, the Monster Hunter music absolutely slaps, by the way. Take a listen to this. Elden Ring not only has the amazing soundtracks, scenery, and boss designs that Monster Hunter brings to the table, but it also introduces a variety of different ways to play the game through builds. In Elden Ring, it's not just a cool weapon and a dream. In Elden Ring, it's a cool weapon, a giant dragon head, a spell that pretty much acts as a Kamehameha, and many other cool abilities. Elden Ring's build variety and replayability is the reason I played through the base story 9 times. One of my favorite things to do in Elden Ring was try to make a build based off of other characters existing in current media. Here's a quick list of characters I made to go through some runs. Savage Opress from Star Wars, Yang Xiaolong from RWBY, Weiss Schnee from RWBY, Black Canary from DC Comics, Bayonetta from Bayonetta, and Clarion the Witch Boy also from DC Comics. If that list of characters is not a good showcase of the variety of builds you can create in this game, then I do not know what will. What really makes Elden Ring special to me though is the time period it happened to release. Right before Elden Ring released, I was pretty bored with gaming in general. Nothing new or exciting was dropping at the time, and that was partly due to the pandemic. Pretty much the only thing good to play at the time was Dead by Daylight's Resident Evil crossover, which wasn't even working on console. I remember saying to my friends, I need a game I can sink 200 hours into, and that's when it came. My personal savior, Elden Ring. And what a great over 200 hours it was. I wasn't following any news about the game before release, I just remember hearing minimal chatter from friends and online about it coming up soon. The game dropped, and I barely knew anything about it, except for some of the starting classes. Knowing FromSoft's reputation, I trusted I would appreciate the purchase, and appreciate the purchase I did. Towards the end of my first playthrough, it became pretty rough for me. It became clear that my weapon of choice wasn't doing me much justice, and I ended up having my friend assist me for the final fights against Hoarah, Radagon, and the Elden Beast. It wasn't until I revisited Elden Ring a little while after launch that I found myself truly falling in love with the game. My most enjoyable experience in this game to date was when I used an Endura based build and went punch for punch with Hoarah. After switching up my build, it really solidified how much I enjoyed playing the game. I even did a couple duo theme builds with a friend of mine, which added even more enjoyment to my playthroughs. All of the enjoyment was only made possible due to the vision of the creator of these games, to make the ultimate and creative experience, and to be honest, I think he succeeded in that. Baldur's Gate is the last game on this list, and it is still the only one I have yet to complete the base campaign for. Not for any negative reason, simply life got in the way of my group's ability to continue the campaign. Soon enough, I plan to finish up the game, so don't worry. By the time I'm making this video, I had reached around early Act 3, and let me tell you how much I absolutely loved it. The world and story simply felt like it was never ending. Even though I got through over 130 hours, I felt like I barely scratched the surface. We had barely been introduced to the main villains by the time our campaign was cut short, and to be honest, this game can be pretty hard. I am by no means a D&D or Baldur's Gate pro, but my party definitely struggled on some fights. I vividly remember struggling on the Ketheric Thorn fight with my party for a whole afternoon, but we persevered. I think my favorite thing about the game might just be its progression system. For someone completely new to the D&D universe like myself, it was very captivating. I started my first journey as a bard, and I do not regret my decision at all. Between my character's useful utility and the badass rapier I picked up along the way, I just enjoyed roaming the world and learning more about it and its characters while also playing a tune to my violin. And I don't need to tell you about the amazing soundtracks, the wonderful differing landscapes that you can travel through, the interesting allies and enemies you find along the way, and your ability to make decisions for yourself that sometimes can get in the way. I remember one of my party mates and I struggling over the decision to free the Nightsong. He was trying to romance Shadowheart, so he wanted to assist Shadowheart against the Nightsong. My character, on the other hand, is very anti-power and anti-religion. Not that my character was selfish, but I really like to imagine her having her own strong morals that definitely heavily impacted her decisions. So that left my character defending the Nightsong against Lady Shar. But that left my friend, who wanted to help Shadowheart, in a sticky situation. And that is something we had to figure out. I have yet to even complete the game, and I can with certainty tell you that Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the best video games I have ever played. It's so good and grand, in fact, that other game development companies stepped forward to declare that fans shouldn't expect so much effort in other games being released. Which kind of brings me to the end summary of this video. As I said in the beginning of this video, these 3 titles alone garnered over 55 million purchases. So it can be very frustrating seeing modern publishers just be in it for the money. Even the modern price tag of $70 for a game is really unneeded. Elden Ring is only $60, and that's saying a lot. And look at not only how much the game has to offer, but also its commercial success. One thing these games and their publishers need to understand is you get in what you put out. In other words, the more time and effort you put into your games, the better they will be received. And received well, these games were. Thank you everyone for watching and pretty much just hearing me fanboy about some of my most played games. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and stick around for a sneak peek at our next video.